Hey, Herrst, Alter, was ist das?
Do you speak English?
What is this? What is all this for?
Oh, this is just for Schnitz and Giggles.
Schnitz and Giggles!
Welcome to Schnitz and Giggles, the podcast that stumbles upon the humor of cross-cultural confusion and life in Vienna, Austria, through the experiences of an Auslander and his Wiener.
Brought to you by the edelwisecrackers.
Disclaimer. This podcast is for the purpose of entertainment only and is not a replacement for therapy.
Welcome to the Schnitz and Giggles podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Michael.
And I'm Lucas.
And what do we got today, Lukey?
Yeah,
you've come prepared.
Guten Hallo to you.
Yeah,
Guten Hallo once again. We've got plenty of stuff for today.
Okay, good.
Plenty of stuff. Is that good English?
Maybe.
We have a lot of things prepared.
Based on what you have prepared today, I'm not going to judge you on your English.
Yeah, well, the English language is interesting enough, but the German language has its perks as well, of course.
Sure.
I was just thinking before we started recording today, I was thinking about, some people learn German. Some even accomplish some level of German. But I've made two experiences, and I think you kind of know what I'm talking about because you've seen it all as well, that when people move here to Austria, and I've seen a lot with Americans, I have to say, but also with other nations. But as you are American.
To be fair, you probably hang out with more Americans than any other nationality.
I probably hang out with more Americans than I should. Let's put it this way.
Well, that should go without saying.
Yeah.
But we said it.
But yeah, we said it now. So there's basically two kinds of Americans that move here. And so some really dig into language and really try to study it even before they come here. Or as they move here, they spend just 1 year on language learning only before they even start anything else.
Sure. And
there's the other group of people who come here and say, well, I'm going to speak English to everyone because they probably won't understand me anyway.
I think there's a happy medium somewhere between as well.
No, there's only black and white.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, of course, there's a medium. There's some people who want to learn a language and they give up because they realize
there it is.
English is good enough.
That's where I fall.
However, the common realization that I've also noticed is so the group of people who learn a language and the group of people who do not learn the language, they end up saying all the same, which is once they moved here, they say, I cannot understand the people, the Austrians. I cannot understand them.
Yeah.
Which is especially frustrating if you've been spending 3 years learning German.
Yeah, if you're a German major in college or something and you get here
right.
and you think you can't communicate.
The thing is that your German language learning wasn't in vain. It's just most of those phrases you learn might be more based in Germany.
Yeah.
And so Austrian German is slightly different, although the grammar and everything, all the rules are more or less the same. But then, of course, the major thing is the pronunciation plus the dialects that we speak. I mean, there's many dialects in Germany as well. If you go to the north and the south, people speak very different German in Germany. And the same goes for Austria, east to west. I have a hard time understanding the people in the west of Austria.
Yeah.
Vienna is based in the east, obviously. So since we're here together and you want to learn the German language desperately,
yes,
I thought I'll bring you some very Austrian, like maybe some idioms or some sayings or some proverbs that are very much used in Vienna and maybe in Eastern Austria, or some might even apply to all the German-speaking countries. So the listeners don't see that. I brought some papers with me today.
I can confirm.
You can confirm.
He does have papers.
I have paper, yeah old school paper. And I printed some Austrian sayings on them. And on the one side, it has the Austrian way of saying it. On the back side, it has the more like standard German equivalent.
Okay.
And I'd like you to try to pronounce it at first.
Great.
And then you can try either the Austrian or actually you should try both.
Yeah, sure.
I'll give you this one here. What does it say?
Auf der Nudelsuppen daher schwommen.
That's pretty good.
Auf der Nudelsuppen daher schwommen.
Does it make any sense to you?
Swimming in noodle soup?
That's pretty close.
Okay. Yeah. We're swimming in soup?
Yeah, it's auf der Nudelsuppe.
Oh, what?
Yeah, but you're okay. The standard German, you flip it around, it's almost the same here.
And this is like this
would be like this would be like the standard
this
German.
This is standard. Oh, okay. So I was
you were
dialect.
You were reading a dialect first.
Dahergeschwommen.
So I would say it
that's
auf der Nudelsuppen dahergeschwommen.
Oh, dahergeschwommen. Okay.
That's how I would pronounce it.
Okay. The standard Deutsch. Auf der Nudelsuppe hergeschwommen sein.
Mm-hmm. So you caught the swimming part.
Yeah. And the noodle soup.
And the noodle soup. And the noodle soup, yeah. It's just a weird saying. And people often use it in a negative term. They say, ich bin nicht, or ich bin nicht, auf der Nudelsuppen dahergeschwommen. Okay. It's a very interesting metaphor because noodle soup is obviously not a very special meal. I mean, to some people it might be, yes.
Sure.
But like from an Austrian...
Pretty standard. School time lunch.
Exactly. So the idea behind that saying is noodle soup has very cheap ingredients, basically.
Yeah.
The question is, what group of people would use cheap ingredients for their meals?
Cheap people.
Cheap people, well, people who don't have a lot of
Poor
money.
people.
Poor people. Yeah, so, and the idea is, it's a very old saying. Usually, it's still true all around the world that poor people often do not have a lot of education.
Okay.
That's what I was going to get at. So people who cook a lot of noodle soup are the ones that don't have a lot of education, meaning they're not very smart in that like educated way. They might be street smart, of course, but that's kind of the idea behind the whole saying. So when you tell me that you didn't swim here on the noodle soup or in the noodle soup, what you're telling me is I'm not
an idiot.
My origin is not like a poor family that's uneducated. Yeah. Basically what you're saying, I'm not an idiot.
Yeah. Huh.
So if I ask you...
I don't swim in the noodle soup.
Yes.
Ain't no dummy.
So if there's a situation where, for example, I would assume that you did something stupid or something and you...
Possible.
It might have happened. Yeah, whatever you do, like if you go to the supermarket, for example, and you don't know how to pay for your groceries or anything, then...
So this I could use in moments when people look at me like I'm a dummy.
Yes.
Which may or may not happen regularly. You say, hey man, I didn't swim in the noodle soup.
Although you have to be careful, because we say in the noodle soup schwimmen, like swimming in the soup, it's different because this implies... It's such a weird saying. It's more like you come swimming across the noodle soup to like from A to B. It's more like a downhill like river.
Come through the noodle soup.
Yes, because if you're swimming in the noodle soup,
then you are an idiot.
Well, no. Well, you're pre everything because that implies you're still in the womb. Like that kind of noodle soup.
That's the noodle soup.
That's the noodle soup. So if you said like ich schwimme in the noodle soup, you're actually calling yourself an embryo or like a fetus or something like that. Yeah. So you be careful.
Thank you for telling me that.
Because then the hergeschwommen is like the her means like I came from one place and came to this place. That's sort of like from here to there. So
I didn't come here through this.
So imagine more like it's a lake and you're like on the other side of the shore and like you're implying over there is Idiot Village.
Yeah.
Across the lake and you didn't come like swimming from over there.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of the soup.
Okay.
Good.
Well, good. I'll memorize that. Yeah, I got to memorize that.
Okay.
Okay, next one.
This one is medium, I think. Medium difficult.
Oh, boah. Boah. Was der Boah nicht kennt, ist Ned.
Yeah, that's very nice, actually.
Super. Great.
You can say things without even knowing what you're saying.
Yeah, I can read, apparently.
Yeah. Makes sense when you need the standard German. Because I think the standard German...
You think I'll get it with the standard?
We might figure out the saying with the standard German.
Was der Bauer nicht kennt, ist nicht.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I know what the word Bauer is.
So Bauer...
Maybe I should.
Bauer is the farmer.
Farmer, of course.
Yeah. So was the Bauer nicht kennt, ist nicht.
So what the farmer can't do, it can't be done?
Well, what the farmer doesn't know,
okay,
he won't eat. That's
east. Okay, east.
It's the east.
Man,
there's east and east.
This is me. Not studying German recently.
Yeah, like you. I didn't prepare you for that.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Okay,
so
brush up on
your words. The farmer doesn't make, he doesn't eat.
You would say that even to people who are not farmers. There's some people who would just say, hey, I don't know this kind of dish. I don't know this food. I'm not even going to touch it.
That's why you wouldn't try my carnitas earlier.
You should have used that. Yeah, the Bauer can't eat the net. So if you just give me like a weird looking bowl full of pork, like you just did earlier today,
I mean,
I'm like, oh, thank you.
Some would have been very honored by me presenting a bowl of pork.
Well, then save it for those people.
I could think of a few friends this would be good for. We will not call them out on the podcast.
Don't call them out, but
all right, next one.
One of them is me.
No na Ned.
No na Ned.
No na Ned.
That's a weird one.
I don't know what Ned is or who Ned is.
Who's Ned?
Who's Ned?
There's Ned.
Natürlich nicht.
Natürlich nicht is the basic translation. So this is kind of...
Or obviously no.
Obviously not. This is kind of the mother of negation here, this phrase. No na Ned.
Yeah.
It's just like as many kind of forms of no you can think of. There's another form like, what is it called? Na, no, na, na, sometimes people say.
Na, no, na, na.
Yeah, na, no, na, net, yeah.
Sounds like a popular 80s pop song.
Yeah, na, 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 na. Well, but you use it whenever you feel someone came here swimming in a noodle soup. Well, if you state the obvious, but it's so obvious to you that you feel like the fact that you're even saying it shows what of an idiot you really are.
Yeah.
So,
so would this be said in response to somebody or after you said something?
Well, if you, for example, if you told me the grass is green,
yeah,
it's like you just we're walking around like, hey, look, the grass is green. I would say nona net.
Oh,
it's like, isn't it that obvious that grass is green? I mean,
no duh.
It's like the English duh, like this expression.
Yeah, no duh.
But the more words you add to it, the more the other people feel. People feel. I really shouldn't have said that.
I feel like this one will be a little bit easier for me to slide into.
And it's easy to pronounce. Like, nona net. But I can guarantee you won't find it in any of the German textbooks. At least not the ones that I have encountered in my lifetime.
Sounds like you need to write a textbook.
Yeah, I found so many, but there's one more I'd like to present for you, and then we're over with today. Try to say that one.
Du spürt die Musik.
Yeah.
Du spürt die Musik.
I mean, you wouldn't see that from just reading it. Probably the emphasis would be on the do. Du spürt die Musik.
Something about music.
Something about music. Yeah. So Musi is short for Musik in this case.
Yeah. Spürt, I don't know.
We'll flip it around. Maybe you know the standard German. Flip it around again. It's upside down.
Hier spielt die Musik.
Hier spielt die Musik.
Or play the music.
Yes. But it's not really about music, although the saying includes the word music. It's more the idea when you want to draw some people's attention, you tell them, hier spielt die Musik, or dort spielt die Musik.
Okay.
You will tell them, or a classroom situation, the teacher is in the classroom, but the students are doing something, anything other than paying attention. But the teacher in Viennese might say, like, hier spielt die Musik.
Yeah.
Meaning like, let's all focus. Yeah. So hier spielt die Musik would be just any way of saying this too. It could be any situation where people are not paying attention. You want them to pay attention to a certain thing or yourself or someone.
Let's get down to business. Good. Which I guess it would make sense that music or the playing of music would be something that is kind of like in the common phraseology because music's pretty important here.
Vienna still calls itself the capital city of music.
Yeah.
At least the classical music.
Yeah, no, obviously the birthplace of many famous posers.
And even more have died here.
Yeah, a lot of them have died here because
more that have been born here.
Well, everybody wants to come learn and make their money. A lot of places you go to concerts, always dudes dressed up like Mozart out in front of Stephan's Dome trying to get you to a free concert. Is it a scam?
Well, some of them are, yes.
How do you know?
They're actually trying to find for like the most tourist-looking people and sell them some special offer, which really is not a very special offer.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a gray area with them. Rather be careful.
I'm sure if you do some research ahead of time and buy a concert ticket, you're in a better situation.
Yeah, if you buy
just like buying it off
if you buy it through the official channels.
Wearing a powdered wig.
Exactly. Which should be suspicious.
You should. Anybody with a powdered wig.
Running after you.
Don't trust them. Interesting fact about those fellows. I found out that most of them are of Albanian descent or from Albania.
Yeah, they're not even Austrian.
Yeah, and they're just the company or whatever is hires Albanians.
They just hire some and the friends and the friends and the friends.
Yeah, and so once I got that little tidbit of information, now when any of those guys asks me, apparently I'm always looking like a tourist with my backpack and with visitors in tow, I guess. I respond to them in Albanian.
Oh, yeah.
And then they kind of look at me, and then I'm gone by then. So it gives me that little bit of space. That little bit of space where it saves everybody else around them. So
I mean,
you can
what kind of Albanian things are you telling them? Like,
I'm just saying no, thank you. Okay. I'm saying no, Falamende.
Okay, I thought you were saying bad things to them, and they were like,
no, I would never do such a thing.
No, never.
I would never do such a thing. So a little tip, or you get them following after you because they're wondering why you're speaking Albanian. That hasn't happened yet. Yeah, but music's an important thing.
Yes, music. Music.
And I don't know if it's changed over time. I feel like when we first moved here, the stuff that was being played on the radio was always like a couple of years behind of what was being played in the States.
Yes. I remember you saying that, yes.
And maybe that's just, it's part of it. It takes longer for the radio waves to get here, I guess. But
well, maybe back in the days when they would carry over the records on ships.
Yeah, it took so long for the music to get here. Yeah, it took a while. But there's this sense that the old music is important.
Yeah, I think you're onto something here. I can confirm that a lot of radios play lots of old music.
And I guess let's define old music.
Yeah, because we're not talking about classical music per se.
Right, because 80s music, like stuff that I haven't heard in decades even.
When you were living in the States?
Yeah, living in the States, if I'm just like flipping around on the radio channels, I don't necessarily hear it. And yet radio station here will go from something very popular to something that I haven't heard in such a long time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like it's just a random, like that's just part of the regular playlist.
Mm-hmm.
is this kind of old.
It's part of the regular rotation.
Yeah.
That's true. So of course, Austria is kind of aware of the latest music that's out there and that's been released in the States or in the UK or elsewhere. But you will still hear some Bon Jovi on the radio, or you listen to Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah.
Queen and Michael Jackson and so many others being played on a regular basis.
Yeah, like really like that late 70s, 80s.
80s and maybe early 90s.
How does that stuff stick so much better? Like, why is it that Austrians are listening to more old music?
Yeah, well, the relationship between Austrian music is a very special one, especially because music is so special.
It's very special.
I'm kind of some, how you call it, circular reasoning? Or no, but since you grew up with this heritage of Mozart and Schubert and Haydn and even like Arnold Schönberg and others. And then you also have the other side of Austrian music in the yodeling, the kind of the polka-like, folk-like music. Yeah. So those are the two major branches, I would say, that often people from outside of Austria would associate with Austrian music.
Sure.
Because think of the Lederhosen and the yodeling and the mountains. And of course, modern music is so much more. So in a way, the Austrian music scene that we have in the 21st century everything's shaped by history, as you would know as a history teacher. At least one thing.
I hope that
I hope that there's something here. Well, I think I would say, starting off, I would go back again to the post-war years, past 1945, because, in a sense, we're still traumatized, like as Austrians, collectively.
Sure.
What I'm saying is, and you as a history teacher would know that the Great War, like World War I and World War II, they changed the world so much in so many ways that we are not even aware of it anymore, unless we really dig deeper. And like we can even imagine the way the world was before World War II.
Right.
World War One,
especially here in Vienna.
Especially in Vienna, of course. If you've been a centerpiece of the war, the wars. So what I'm saying is, of course, you've heard that the Nazis also had the preferences in music. Sure. They tried to make the music as German as possible. Like they promote that kind of music. So when obviously the war was lost, that kind of ideology
for some of you,
was some of the worst that was going on.
Some of us won. Half this table won.
Well, I always thought, and you as a history teacher should know that there's no winners in the war.
That's right. There are no winners.
There are no winners, yeah. So there are no winners, but we are the winners. We're still here.
We're the losers.
You're a winner or are you a loser?
Post-war. Dramatic change.
What I'm saying is there were two forces at play, I would say. One was people did not like the previous German kind of music because it would be associated with Nazis. Second thing is, thanks to the Allies.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
As a representative.
As a representative. So General Michael here.
Generally speaking.
What the Allies brought us was music from outside of the German Reich. Yeah. And music like jazz was forbidden under the Nazis. Like what they would call it. I mean, they would call it like all kinds of music.
We probably don't need to repeat what they would call it.
Yeah, so it's not politically correct anymore. Or was it ever? It wasn't ever. That's the question.
Yeah, I don't think it ever really should have been.
Yes.
Let's accept it now, let's say.
When politics, like the Nazi politics, it was politically correct. That's what I was trying to say. So, anyway, American music came into our realms.
Yeah.
And so going into the 50s and 60s, there were two major branches. One was like the American music was very much appreciated. And also there was some new kind of German music. We would call it Schlager. Yeah. Schlager music. And it was more like I would call it very cheesy type of music.
Yeah.
That's
kind of a mix of like polka and yodeling.
In a way, maybe not yodeling, but lots of happy music. It's all sunshine and so like very lighthearted.
Yeah, better days are ahead.
Better days are ahead. Because of course, like I said, traumatized by the war. And so that generation is also long gone already. So what happened is that in the 50s, 60s, you had even into the 70s, you had lots of these musicians that were competing quite well against the international music. But then, of course, when you had the 60s and the revolution, like the rock revolution and pop culture revolution with the Beatles and so on, they also tried to get into the German market because the German market was very much German speaking.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you knew that the Beatles even recorded some songs in German.
Did they?
Yes.
I did not. How am I just learning this?
Yes, so this.
How have you not played any of those at the because you've played Beatles songs at like school talent shows and things like that.
Right.
How have you not broken out the German versions?
Because you wouldn't understand them if it's the German.
Oh, but it'd be wonderful.
It would be wonderful, yes.
Yeah.
So there's only 2 or 3 like of the early singles.
Okay.
Because the British were thinking, okay, we need the German market, and the Beatles are very popular because they were there like before they were famous. They were in Hamburg.
Yeah, that's right.
So they had a good connection with the German market, the music market there. So they actually went back and recorded the song like I Want to Hold Your Hand, for example. Yeah, it's John, Paul, and George. They're singing all these songs in German with great accents. And
I'm sure.
It's actually very, it feels like you're listening to like, it's like a parallel universe.
Yeah.
What if the Beatles were German, like to begin with?
I'm pretty confident we'll be looking those up right after we're done.
Yeah, you should.
Without a doubt.
It's worth it. Anyway, they realized that the German people, like German and Austrians and Swiss, they really didn't care so much about, they would even listen to the English songs of the Beatles. Yeah. So they stopped doing them in German as well. So lots of English music flooded the markets in the 60s. The one thing that was obvious is that the identity of German-speaking music in general, it's almost I wouldn't say non-existent, but it's really hard to define because there's not just...
Yeah, Falco.
Yes, we have Falco, for example. Yeah, that's the jump into the 80s,
yeah,
where there is a new thing that started in the 70s, and we call it Austropop. So Austropop were people who were different from the Schlager people from the 50s or 60s. They started singing in dialect and even like using. The sound was more rough. It was really like the things they would sing about was like even some not so happy themes and topics. There's one guy who basically became famous. His name is Wolfgang Ambros. He became famous by singing about, the whole song is about a story where somebody killed a guy and everyone's wondering who did it. And they accuse each other, like in Vienna, they point fingers at each other. That's kind of the song he became famous for.
Man, he shot a man in Reno just to watch him die.
Yeah,
I mean, it seems like it's right along there.
They were influenced by Bob Dylan and many other of these, the popular artists back then.
But with an Austrian.
So, but they translated into the Austrian culture, they weren't just covering those songs. They were really writing their own. And so the whole songs in dialect were really popular up until I'd say the 90s. And so there was Falco, who actually didn't really sing he had a very special niche.
Yeah.
So he would sing basically in dialect, but also he changed it to English-German mix, a blend of English and German. It's really fascinating. Did you know that he actually was the first German-speaking rapper?
Really?
Yes. Huh. The first time there's German-speaking rap was Falco.
Wow. So I guess I should buy my tickets for the musical so I can learn some of these things.
Yes, it's
probably
worth it.
Sold out.
Yeah, so Falco is kind of the one superstar that Austria ever had.
Yeah.
Because he was number one in the US and other countries as well, which no one else has ever achieved, like with a German-speaking song.
Yeah.
It was Rock Amadeus, for the record.
That's right. Great song.
And then I'd say what happened afterwards, I would call it the big void, because these Austrian dialect songs sort of lost their popularity in the later 90s, I'd say. And then you would hardly hear any German-speaking music on the radio. Like in the late 90s and going into 2000s, there were always Austrian musicians and Austrian artists. But if the Austrian listeners, I would say they were kind of embarrassed by them. They just wouldn't get any momentum.
It seems like it kind of overlaps with what we talked about in a recent episode with the scandal of like not wanting to associate with the things of the past. Like it's happening at the same time.
Yes.
The something affair. I can't remember.
The Waldheim affair. The Waldheim guy, the president.
Yeah. It's happening at the same time, right?
Yes. And I think you as a history teacher would know that you can separate, for example, music and art from politics.
Yeah, of course not. Yeah.
They all, of course, musicians make their music and art just make their art while political developments happen.
Yeah, it's a response.
It's like a response to politics, and politics often respond also to cultural movements.
Yeah,
so it's always it's a give and take, and so I'd say it's a very smart observation that you just made here. Like
as has been mentioned, I am a history guy.
Going on to that, your first question: why do people in Austria still like listening to the 80s so much? And I feel perhaps one part of the answer. It's not the entire answer, and it's not definite. But I would say maybe it reminds them of those days, those better days, in the sense of before. Let me use the term before Austria lost its innocence. There was not really an innocence to begin with, but as in they played the victims for 40 years. Yeah, they said we weren't pro-Hitler, we were the first victim of the Nazis. And so they rebuilt the country in those years. They did very well economically. And
beginning of the socialist paradise.
The socialist paradise started, yes. I mean, living in Austria in the 70s and in the 80s was really, really, really great compared to other countries. And it still is to this day, you have to add that. But I think they were still living in this kind of illusion let's not talk about the past, not even think about the past. Maybe we'll just make it, without looking back. And so that's what we talked about the other day with the Waldheim affair.
Yeah.
When you want to elect a former Nazi as a president, then maybe some people are going to rattle a cage.
Yeah,
and so Austria had to face those shadows from the past. And the music back then was still music that might remind them of the better days, because after that, the Austrians had to face their responsibility in many ways.
Yeah, I know there's a concept that like the music that you listen to in high school is like the music
that sticks with you for a lifetime,
for the rest of your life. So
exactly.
So maybe there's some of that at play. But I think like the interest in like the 80s music is something that kind of goes cross generations. Like it's not just a bunch of 50-year-olds in Austria.
It's not just the people who were in high school back in the 80s.
Right. There's younger generations that will also, and again, some of that's because it's being played. So it does become the music they're listening to in high school if they're listening to the radio. But it does seem like it's something that's somewhat unique. That's to Austria, kind of that.
I think because when Germany rebuilt itself after the war, they kind of were proud to be Germans again. And so that would even also reflect in culture and in music and the arts. But with Austria, they kind of had to lean on something. And they didn't want to make this mistake again to say, let's import all the music from Germany, because we don't want to think from Germany anymore.
And then you end up getting David Hasselhoff as well.
Well, that's
yes.
That is a German-American. Well, I don't know what he is. He's one of a kind.
Yeah, he's the Hoff. Don't hassle the Hoff.
Hassle the Hoff. We have to talk about the Berlin Wall and David Hasselhoff one time.
Yeah, maybe.
But my point is, thanks for bringing in the Hoff.
Sorry, a little teaser maybe.
It threw me off.
Sorry.
So, since the Austrians weren't like big enough to come up with their own industry of music, except for those local dialect artists, they had to very much rely on the non-German music that was being produced, which was big coming from the UK and the US. Yeah. And that's the main reason why I think we love the international English-speaking music more than the Germans do. Sure. So we love the Austrian music. I have to say, when I called it the big void before, in the recent years, more and more Austrian artists have stepped up and become more popular. Even back to singing like songs in dialect. And there are a lot of Austrian artists that have become very popular in Germany. If they're not too big on the dialect, on the Austrian dialect, people in Germany can understand them. They even have like a market there, which is really nice for them. And they also get some airplay on the radio a lot these days. So it has changed for the better for the music industry in Austria. But like I said, it's still, from an Austrian perspective, and to wrap this up maybe at some point here, from an Austrian perspective, singing in German is not really cool sometimes. Singing German lyrics can be so cheesy. Yeah. And especially if they sound very, very German, then Austrians don't want to listen to it. Because there's a big rap scene, for example, in Germany. Like there's lots of German rappers. But the sound of the German rap is just not something that's not really pleasing to the Austrian ear. I would say there's lots of Austrians who like German rap. And we can appreciate that, of course.
But it comes pretty hard. German rap
it's never going to make it big in Austria. That's what I'm predicting here. Making music in German sound really good to the Austrian ear is a very, very hard task. Yeah. And those who have accomplished it they deserve a lot of respect and all the golden records. And that's why still, if you have an English-speaking artist, Austrians would love to hear from them because it's just more appealing to them. As a matter of fact, I came across an artist. I don't know if you've ever heard of Parov Stella.
No.
He's kind of one of the pioneers of electronic swing.
Ooh, okay.
So, I mean, you think of electronic music, but it's really swingy. All right. That's a word. Yeah, I listened to Jimmy's Gang and Clap Your Hands. Okay. Take note of that. So if you want to listen to Jimmy's Gang, Clap Your Hands.
Man, I have a whole afternoon of music listening ahead of me.
It's like the happy sound of the 50s, like the post-war years again. No, but it seems like he's very popular all around the world. And there are some musicians that, let's say, we don't even know they're Austrian. And like they're having some business with international musicians. And you might come across one or two Austrians.
Well, I do know that, going to shows here in Vienna, like a lot of times an opening band will be a local band. Mm-hmm. And there's very few of them that have German songs. I think to what you're saying there, right? An American band will come over, play a concert. All in English, and so everybody who's there knows those songs in English. So it makes sense that the local artist would find that common denominator of the language being an entry point into the bigger market.
Exactly.
Oh, becoming a music podcast here. So big shout out to
Parov Stella.
Parov Stella.
Yeah, and there's a music group called Wanda. That's a very popular band. I think they only have German-speaking songs. I don't think they have any English-speaking songs. I wouldn't know exactly. There's some duos like Silent Speer. Those are very popular artists here in Austria. But of course, they produce songs in German only. And I think the only band that has accomplished to become world famous with German songs only is the German band Rammstein.
Yeah.
Because anyone else who tries to become famous with just German songs only has failed so far, I think.
Seems like you have to be that extra special good musically.
For them, it's probably their whole appearance in the show, that like the whole image that made them popular.
Yeah.
But as a matter of fact, I've heard that many people started learning German because they were listening to Rammstein in the first place. And
which they've become a bit of a touchy subject.
A touchy subject, right? Yeah, because it's not a happy world there either, it seems.
Yeah, it turns out hard rock bands say offensive things.
Yes.
Weird.
And do offensive things sometimes.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good obviously, we like talking about music. Maybe in future episodes, we'll
talk some more about music.
Talk a little bit more about some of these local Austrian bands.
Yeah. We should support them. I mean, if they produce high quality music by international standards, they're not falling behind.
Yeah. Well, I know that there's the Sandstorm Unicorns is an up and coming band that we're going to have to talk about in the future.
We have to talk about band names.
Well, that's an actual band name.
Yes, I know. Like, we have to, like, there's some weird band names out there. That's what I'm trying to say here. Like,
yeah, we have a band name episode. All right. Well, I think it's time to be done.
I think so.
So
that was enlightening.
Yeah. Good and bye-bye.
Good and bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this Schnitz and Giggles episode.
Remember to follow and subscribe if you want more content like this from the Edelwisecrackers.
Don't be shy about commenting or leaving feedback. Until next time.
So long.
Farewell.
Good Wiedersehen.
Bye-bye.